Here is the plan for today. There will be two parts of the session. Part one will be talks by various dignitaries and keynote talk by the chief guest. We will introduce each one of them as we proceed with the session. Part one will also include inauguration of the course by the chief guest. Towards the end of the part one, we will conduct a short poll which will also mark your attendance on participation in the poll. Then we will move on to part two, which is the panel discussion on technology transfer in practice. Panelists are internationally and nationally acclaimed stalwarts in technology transfer. I'll introduce them as we move along the session of panel discussion. Next, please. Before we proceed with the sessions, I would like to share certain announcements and rules for all the participants. E-certificates will be issued to the participants who mark their presence by attempting poll quiz for the day. Participants completing this 5 days webinar series with certificate of completion will be given first preference to participate in the in-person certificate course, which is planned in the month of June. Registered participants will receive access to the restricted website for the presentations and videos of the online webinar series. Kindly always be on mute and video off mode. Unmute and switch on the video only when asked to do. Type all your questions in the chat box, please. Next, please. With this, we start with the first talk by Dr. Premnath. He would give a welcome address and would talk about introduction to the TTO capacity building project. Next slide, please. Dr. Premnath is the Director of Venture Center and Head of NCL Innovations CSIR NCL. He is a technology developer, scientist, entrepreneur, technology and IP commercialization expert, startup mentor and incubation manager. He has shaped national policies and established award-winning innovation management initiatives. Over to you, Dr. Premnath.
Thank you, Pragnya. Can you see me? I seem to have my video on, but I don't see myself.
Yes, sir. Your video is visible.
Okay, good. Okay, let's go with this and let's start the session today. First of all, thank you, everybody. Thanks for joining in. There are several attendees here from academia, government R&D labs, incubators, technology transfer firms, and many other such organizations. Thank you for joining in and being part of this program. We also thank guests from DST and other government agencies who are participating in this program. International and national experts who have generously given their time for participating in this activity and contributing to the sessions we are going to be running in April and June as well. Welcome to also the UNIDO team members who are on this call. Thank you so much for bringing this tech transfer office training activity or capacity development activity to the top of the agenda, making it possible. And that's why we are here today running this activity. And of course, the organizing team from the Venture Center and its regional tech transfer office, which is called techx.in, who are helping run this program today as well. Can I go to the next slide? Yeah. So overall, this particular activity is a technology transfer office capacity development effort. In this year, we hope to do some of these things which are listed here. One, which is a set of technology training, TTO training programs. Second, set of resources which we'll make available to the techtransfer.online website and a TTO handbook. In the training programs today, we are beginning with the Essentials of Tech Transfer, which is an online program. Following that would be in June, a very brief session for decision makers on tech transfer essentials, followed by something which is meant for people who are practicing tech transfer professionals, which will be run in Pune in June. And we are also trying to organize an advanced tech transfer workshop, which will be for especially the leaders in some of the tech transfer offices, which will be 1.5 to 2 day program to enable them to learn directly from some of our experts and have exchanges of specific issues that they may encounter and peg the standard much at a different level than what many other tech transfer professionals might need. Next slide, please. As many of you are aware, just a brief information about Venture Center. We are an award-winning non-profit incubator focused on inventive enterprises, science-based businesses, and deep tech startups. We're about 18 years old. We worked with 900 plus startup teams, including 200 plus resident startups. Startups have raised funds exceeding $100 million in the last 8 years. There are about 220 plus products launched and about more than 180 unique patent families filed by some of these resident startups. Our approach has been to make available a rich and inclusive innovation ecosystem for innovators, comprising funding options, mentors, peer networks, information and learning opportunities, R&D facilities, digital and physical prototyping capabilities, advanced analytical and testing support, IP and tech transfer support, and regulatory support and networks. We are based in Pune, hosted by CSIR NCL, and we are an approved incubator of the DST, as well as BIRAC, DIO, Defense Innovation Organization, and the Government of Maharashtra as well. Some of you are interested, you can browse this website. Next slide, please. A very quick 2 words about our Regional Tech Transfer Office. This is an activity where we are trying to build win-win partnerships between technology partnerships for industry and academia. That's the overarching goal. There are a lot of offerings for both technology developers and seekers, and this is an activity which is being supported by BIRAC and the National Biopharma Mission at Venture Center. Next slide, please. Yeah, I think with that, I welcome you once again, and now over to Pragnya to take over and run with the rest of the proceedings.
Thank you, Dr. Premnath. Requesting my colleagues to kindly skip these few slides. Mr. Gershwin may not be able to join. We would go to the next segment. I would now invite Mr. Sandeep Tandon, who will speak about the FLCTD project. I know everyone would be interested in knowing what this FLCTD project is about. That's what he is going to talk about. Next slide, please. Mr. Sandeep Tandon, he serves as National Project Manager at UNIDO for the project FLCTD. He has led UNIDO's program on clean technology innovation for the industrial and commercial sector partners. He has over 36 years of professional experience with private sector, bilateral and multilateral agencies, and has led complex projects in the energy sector on climate change mitigation. With this introduction, I would request Mr. Tandon to kindly share his screen and start with his talk. Thank you.
Is it visible now?
They are visible and they are full screen.
Okay, thank you. So this is a program that the United States Agency for International Industrial Development is implementing in India. It's called Facility for Low Carbon Technology Deployment. First of all, an introduction to UNIDO. It is one of the specialized agency of the United Nations, which is working towards accelerating sustainable industrial development, and it has been present in India since 1966, since the time of its inception, and over past over 5 decades plus, it has been advising and the government of India on various technical cooperation program activities, working in building the capacity of the industrial sector, on variety of activities, as well as providing the support to government of India as well as the industries on certain international compliance requirement, be it chemicals or related to climate change. Most of the programs are implemented along with the government partners, but the main partner for UNIDO in India and the government counterpart is DPIIT. Now, the program that I'm going to talk about, Facility for Low Carbon Technology Deployment, the national counterpart is Bureau of Energy Efficiency. because of the nature of the program and its deliverables and the targets. As many of you might know, Bureau of Energy Efficiency was created more than two decades ago under an act of the parliament, and it's develops policies and strategies to reduce energy intensity of the Indian economy. So mainly coming up with various schemes targeting the industries to reduce the specific energy consumption, and also running a variety of programs related to appliance labeling and building energy conservation in buildings, as well as working on the power sector. So they have been our program
Dr.
collaborators.
Tandon, if I can interrupt, there's some. Can you come closer to the mic, please? There seems to be some comments coming up that they are not able to hear clearly. Sorry for the interruption. Yeah,
Is
but
it
I can hear
better
you fairly.
or-
I can hear you fairly well. So I'm not sure if it's a universal problem. Yeah, please go ahead.
Now coming, is it better now? I hope it is should be okay
Yeah,
now.
better. Please go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So about the program, these activities are, these programs are funded by the Global Environment Facility, which is based out of Washington, and it's a facility that was created as a part of the UN Framework Convention, which is providing funding to various, developing countries to address the issue of climate change, both on climate change mitigation and climate change adaptation. And the program, where UNIDO is, the implementing agency along with the, government of India. So the program is structured, the deliverables, target objectives, that you are seeing on the screen, we are already, decided and agreed by both the sides, and thereafter funding is made available to the UN agency as a implementing partner. So the goals were very interesting is to identify, go further, besides implementing energy efficiency in the industry, but explore the area of innovation to come up with innovative technologies that can be deployed in response to climate change mitigation requirement. So the objectives are very clear. The goals are also, you can see, certain targets are given, both in terms of identification of the innovation, but what these innovation should translate into in terms of the emission target. And the beginning, you'll see in the slides, we have coming to the closure of the program, but we have also achieved these targets. So one of the objective of this program has also been, while we are focusing on the technical side, on innovation, but also to look at the technology transfer function within the country and strengthen the tech transfer ecosystem. So the program is implemented with two components. One component is focus on looking at the technology side, the innovations, and providing support for its commercialization. And that was done through three subcomponents. One was first was the innovation challenge, like any other innovation program that you're familiar with. But we also added an accelerator program, given the UNIDO's prior experience in India as well as worldwide, where UNIDO is running a program called Global Clean Tech Innovation Program, and that program actually started. I'll take a minute to describe the background. How we before getting deeper into this program. UNIDO was implementing the Global Clean Tech Innovation Program covering 9 countries that started in 2014, and India was one of them. Currently, UNIDO is running the second phase of Global Clean Tech Innovation Program that covers 16 countries across Asia, Africa, and Eastern European countries. Now, accelerator program was focused on looking at clean technologies, and that gave a lot of insight of what is this potential in India. And under this particular program on facility for low carbon technology deployment, innovation challenge became the crux. And we added another component on providing the additional handholding support to the startups. Currently, what the activity that we are today gathered under the umbrella is under the component 2, where the focus is on strengthening the tech transfer ecosystem, and that is again an important facet of looking at the overall umbrella of science and technology based innovation. So the program, as I said, was already negotiated between Government of India and UNIDO and endorsed by the board of Global Environment Facility. It had three components, three thematic areas on waste heat recovery, pumps and motors, and space conditioning. Thereafter, we added three more components of industrial resource efficiency, industrial IoT, and electrical energy storage. These were the areas where innovation challenge were run. We had, as the program evolved and progressed, we have various, Indian counterparts, starting from CII Green Business Center based in Hyderabad to Sangam for running the accelerator program and other partners, including Venture Center, on providing the capacity building support to various program partners. So these 6 areas where we ran the innovation challenge on annual basis. Yes. So this describes how the program evolved, taking the early stage innovation right up to the stage of commercialization. The accelerator program provided no funding support, but more of a capacity building. But the innovation challenge program that we were running was providing support for doing the beta testing and validation of that technology by providing funding for doing the field trial, and then it provided further follow-on support for fundraising. So these were the areas that the program started with certain hypotheses, certain other activities were added on, both at the both sides of the innovation challenge to strengthen the delivery so that more innovation get commercialized. What the program offered was a support of $50,000 for doing the field trials, validating the efficacy on how the solution performs. So essentially, what you test out, the prototypes, proof of concept in the labs. These were the startups were giving funding support to test it out at a particular scale that it could be easily adopted or get to commercialization and be used by the potential end users. There was scope for providing mentoring support by the program partner and subject expert, but we realized that for a technology or innovation to reach commercialization, it has to go through a de-risking process, which is what the program was able to evolve, and also provided the industry linkages because the each innovation was tried and tested at demonstrated at various different geographic location, typically 3 to 4 different location with different industry client with different operating environment that provided a very robust mechanism for technology validation, and that led to its faster adoption and commercialization. But on a selective basis, financial mentoring support was provided to certain startups. The highlight of or upside of the program was we were able to go to the real end users who are going to adopt this innovation. Nearly 250 locations across large industries, large MSMEs, dairy units, buildings, agriculture. Now these were not defined by the by us. I mean by UNIDO or. But these were the areas where the entrepreneur themselves said these are the places where our innovation would provide value addition, or this is addressing a particular need and demand. At the same time, it is working towards providing a solution which is more efficient and helps to reduce the emissions. So food supply chain, dairy supply chain, buildings, agriculture, whatever was possibility, the entrepreneur thought about, we can encourage and supported their technology validation. So what essentially the program did was taking the innovation that had come to TRL3 proof of concept. So through a series of support, first through the accelerator program, but once it has reached a certain maturity, has come to a functional prototype, the program through a panel of experts, selected these startups and the innovation and provided that support, going to moving up on the technology readiness level. And coming to the stage where the entrepreneur, the startup was fairly confident that they have got good hold of innovation, how it is going to perform in the field, what kind of design challenges, whatever came, they were overcome, and they were ready to go in terms of commercialization. So over a period, we got about we were able to attract about nearly 1,500 climate tech startups, and selected about 10% of them through for acceleration support as well as technology validation. Out of these 140, 88 were given financial support for what I mentioned, $50,000. That was ceiling, but on an average, people we got gave about 40 to 45 $1,000 depending on the specific requirement. And as we speak, these numbers are still in progress. 53 technology validation have been completed. We expecting few more, and out of these, about 38 have been already commercialized. And these are very fast impact for the and that is where it got the attention of the end users in terms of the response, in terms of payback period, the potential for energy saving and and greenhouse gas reduction. And as we are tracking the progress, not only they have been able to get attract investment, the funding support provided by FLCDD program has been in the magnitude of $4 million. And with that $4 million, there have been significant leverage in terms of investment. They were able to raise is about $37 million. Some of the names and logos that you see of the investors that are present in India, and has been taking interest in climate tech startups. But since these technologies have been commercialized on an aggregate basis, they are getting orders, and we have been tracking on annual basis from at the end of financial year. So all very encouraging results, and as we speak, at the end of 2025, we expect these number to look even better. So a good basis for the program to communicate the achievements and results. But at the same time, one of the learning and interesting insights was all these startups that we selected, about 88 or even 140, these were the startup entrepreneurs who were bootstrapped or have received some initial funding, but hardly anything any of these innovation came from the R&D center or the labs. And that pointed the attention towards the need for building the tech transfer function. So we went about doing this exercise in two steps. First was looking at the whole tech transfer ecosystem, for the aim for increasing the commercialization. We know a lot of good innovation is there in the labs. A lot of patents have been filed and continue to be filed throughout the higher education institutes, various laboratories. But unfortunately, the rate of commercialization is not as much as one would expect. And one we went about doing a deep dive, and the follow-on work is being taken up by the venture center. So what we did was looking at the training need assessment of tech transfer offices. You all who have joined today, trying to understand what is the inhibiting factor that lead to a lower rate of technology commercialization. What are the bottlenecks? How can FLCDD program can address some of the bottlenecks and provide further handhold support, but also look at the what is happening in the advanced innovation ecosystem across the other part of the world. Looked at 5 international ecosystem, and the insights that came that gave shape to the need for the training programs. So the study that was taken up by the DST Center for Policy Research by the Punjab University, that did the basic deep dive and scoping out what is going on. We covered 25 institutes, kind of sample with representative of the Indian innovation, the tech transfer innovation ecosystem. That includes higher education institutes, CSIR labs, ICR labs. But we also did a comparative analysis based on the attributes, characterization matrix given in the Oslo manual, looked at what is happening in the innovation ecosystems in the top ranking as per the global innovation index, top ranking countries, and see how we can bridge that gap. And what came out was the fundamentally two major activities. One is a series of training program, and today is being the first day of that training program that is starting with the introductory modules, and also the need for a standardization reference manual that is badly needed for in the Indian tech transfer ecosystem. And both the works are being led by the Venture Center. So I congratulate the Venture Center team to be a part of this initiative, but also congratulate all of you who are joined today to be part of these introductory modules and the training programs that would cover these various aspects that we are going to hear today as well as next 4 days this week. So this is essentially what has been going in the program, but at the same time, the entrepreneur that received the support, their technologies got validated. They would also receive recognition in a different forum. By the selection was done by a different program partner, at the event organized by Bureau of Energy Efficiency, by the Honorable President of India and Honorable Minister of Power. These were the events organized on the National Energy Conservation Award in the year 2022 and year 23, and also the event organized by UNIDO at its headquarters in Vienna, where we had a startup from was incubated, supported in Venture Center Zero Circle, received recognition. And interestingly, the program itself received recognition last year by the industry for being very unique and bringing out new innovative technologies which are being adopted by the industry. So UNIDO was able to showcase not just 18, but all these innovations that have come up and that have got commercialized can be said these are all made in India innovation for the industrial and commercial sector. So with that, I'll give you a quick overview of the program. You can visit the website, but essentially the crux is this program has been able to provide a suite for the climate tech startups, and also essentially it has been a facility where we provided the capacity building support for the all the stakeholder, be it not just the end user startup, but also who have been engaged by UNIDO under this program, be it CII, be it DST Center for Policy Research or Venture Center. So our aim is that as the program, we build the capacity within India to so that you have various program partners who can provide these capacity building support and become the anchor for certain functions like for the TTOs, this particular training program, where the training would be provided on awareness on tech transfer, valuation, deal making, so that as the program eventually any facility or program would comes to an end, we leave behind a legacy which would continue the work and to strengthen the function of technology transfer, particularly for climate change within the country. So with that, I'll close my presentation and hand it over to the organizer. Thank you all very much for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Tandon, for that great, I would say, overview of the entire FLCTD project. What were the, how did you take it up? How it was ended? What were the, gaps that were identified? And thanks for all your support all along for the Venture Center team so that we could reach this day to launch our capacity building program with the online series. Thank you so much. With this, we move on to our next session by Mr. Nitesh Kaushik. He will be giving you insights into the motivation and lessons from UNIDO study of TTOs in India. Next, please. Uh, Nitesh, Nitesh is the national expert for technology transfer at UNIDO. Nitesh has 13 years of experience in technology, innovation, and entrepreneurship development. He leads the activities focusing on strengthening the technology transfer ecosystem in the country. He has worked previously with UNDP, UPES, TNO, and research-based startup companies. He is trained in sciences and bioengineering with a master's from Tampere University of Technology. With this, I would request Nitesh to kindly share his screen and start with this talk. Yeah,
Now
Now,
is it
it's
good?
good now.
good.
Okay,
Please start.
thank you. Okay, so I'll be covering the motivation and the learnings from the study. So first is, why did we decide to do the study and why did we decide to do the course? So initially in the project document, the guidance was to establish a technical support facility, a technical support thing for tech transfer support facility. Idea was to establish one single facility. But then we did a very consultative process. We do 2 rounds of focus group discussions, a lot of in-person interactions with multiple stakeholders. And what we identified was there was a sort of a perception versus function mismatch in the ecosystem. So people were using terminologies which sounded similar but meant differently. So this pointed out towards certain patterns, and then we decided, like, instead of establishing a facility, we would rather verify existing centers, networks, and capabilities, establish the as-is status and the practices that are currently being followed, and then identify some gaps and bottlenecks in the ecosystem. Based on these findings, the idea was to design project interventions, and hence we decided to launch this study of the overall ecosystem. When we planned this study, again, it was a very consultative process. And then the idea was first to map and characterize the ecosystem on a very as-is basis. We didn't try to do any rankings or indexing or any causations, just as is. Then also get a deeper insight into what are the bottlenecks and inhibitors of tech transfer process in the higher education institutes specifically. Looking at the institutes, we also wanted to learn from some good practices internationally. So we picked up 5 countries and then use these insights, these learnings into designing a capacity building program, which will be offered out in the larger ecosystem. So that was the whole idea. So this slide here shows you the overall spread of the study. So we tried to cover the different kinds of education institutes and research infrastructure that we have, different kinds of universities and higher education institutes, both public and private, and also the geographical spread of these institutions. So here you can see we had a long list of 524 institutions. Then a shortlist was created. We came down to 59. And then ultimately we visited 25 of these places, which are marked on the map. And there were very detailed interviews. We spent about half a day each trying to understand exactly how the TTOs are placed, how are they functioning, and what kind of detailing and semantics go in their day-to-day operations. Shortlisting was also interesting. So we followed these 3-pronged criteria for shortlisting institutions. First was because out of these 524, when we got the list, we initially sort of added all institutions which claim to be doing tech transfer. If it was on their website or in their public material that they are doing tech transfer, we put them in a list. Then for shortlisting, first was tech transfer as one of the primary activities as per the information in the public domain. Second is there must be some tech transfer related activities going on actively. So either intellectual property filing or some technology development activities or commercialization activities. And why this was important, I will come to later in next part of my presentation. And finally, if it's a tech transfer unit, then there has to be some sort of a team or a team leader or somebody who's responsible for doing these activities. These three criteria applied to 524, the list comes down to 59. Out of these 59, we wrote to everybody, we got responses, and we decided to travel to 25 places. That's how it was done. In terms of the questionnaire and the characterization matrix, we looked at the Oslo manual. From the Oslo manual, we picked up these 7 key attributes which were important, like features of a TTO, the background and the kind of activities, functions, administration in terms of staffing and everything, governance, what are the decision-making structures within the TTO, what kind of compliances, policies, guidelines, the kind of agreements, how the overall process goes on, financial information, and also performance evaluation, audits, those kind of things. And ultimately, how these offices are maintaining their relationships with the industries and other stakeholders. So these 7 attributes, we divided them into 25 sub-attributes and then created 42 questions divided into 2 parts. Now, jumping directly to what was found during the study, overall at the ecosystem, we saw that this is an emerging practice, not yet very well developed. Most of the places, they've just started out, or very recently, they've started looking at it in a serious manner and started allocating significant resources to it. Second is there's a wide range in terms of real deal flow experience. We do have a lot of offices where tech transfer related activities happen, but the offices where actual deals have happened are still, the number is quite low. So that gives you a very wide range in terms of the practices, in terms of experience, in terms of offerings. It has an impact on the overall spread of the ecosystem. We also found a very strong preference for non-exclusive licensing. It's also, I'll mention this in later part of my presentation as well. And then we also found that there's a certain expectation mismatch between industry and academia. What that does is it prolongs your deal negotiations. So a lot of TTOs mentioned negotiations that have been going for more than 2 years, 3 years. So that's basically a typical fence sitting behavior from the industry. So whenever they sense there is something happening, they will come to you, engage, spend some time negotiating, and then go back. So everything has happened except for the signing the dotted line. So that is a very typical behavior we saw. Then we also saw that there's very little attention to communication, marketing, and promotions. Lot of attention on IP, protecting the IP, but not so much on communication, marketing, promotions, and also using the popular science tools to promote these technologies. So that is one very specific thing that we saw was mentioning. And then also a lot of career anxiety among TT practitioners. So during my visits, I met people with 10, 12, 15, even more longer years of experiences. But everybody was kind of lost in terms of what next. So that becomes important, because otherwise the overall growth of the ecosystem becomes stunted when people don't know where they are going. Now, jumping into each of the attributes, for example, the features, we saw that most of them were established after 2000s, mostly 2010s. Most TTOs are working as a unit, a cell, or a project under a larger host institution. What that does is it limits the scope of activities. It also imposes a shadow of reporting, financial practices, and the priorities of the host institution. So TTOs are not able to operate as freely as they would want to be, especially during the emerging stages of their establishment. Next is functioning. This was also very peculiar. Like IP management function is the most developed function currently. But on the other hand, most of the TTOs would report one patent as one technology. And for them, one patent license is already means one technology commercialized. But then some TTOs were also mentioning that the number of technologies they've commercialized is actually higher than the number of technologies that they've generated in-house. So this required further investigation. And it also points back to that perception versus function mismatches that I mentioned in the beginning. So because it's a direct indicator that there is semantic difference in perception of these common terminologies. In terms of governance, half of them have a board of governance. About 1/3 of them have somebody who's with an independent charge. Mostly it is an additional charge. And then for a tech transfer institution, the lowest or the most underdeveloped skill set currently is technology development. So that has further impact because most of them, as you can see here, like 88% do in-house tech assessment, 76% do in-house valuations as well. But then they are also reporting that tech development is one area where they do not have enough expertise or do not have the right kind of skill set resource person in there. So it becomes a trifecta, and eventually you start questioning the overall quality of the deal or the offering that is coming out. Then about 60% of them mentioned there is selection criteria for technologies to be taken into a pipeline, but then it was not TR level based criteria. It was some other criteria, institution based, which they keep on changing as per the needs. In terms of policies, here it looks very good. 80% of them reported doing co-commercialization, but this is mostly related to R&D projects where you have PIs and co-PIs from different institutions. Not specifically the way we understand co-commercialization, where you have an academic partner, an industrial partner, or an end user organization. You invest resources together and then you try to commercialize it together. Like I mentioned previously, most of them prefer non-exclusive licensing deals, about 76%. 48% of them sign data use agreements. This is something we faced in the other part of the program as well. The innovators would go to the industrial sites, they will deploy, but when it comes to measure and validate the performance efficacy, the industrial partner would say, sorry, we can't share the data. But then what is the point of doing the deployment if we don't get the data? You need that performance data to establish a track record, right? So this is a very critical gap. Then another thing that really stood out was almost all TTOs, except for one, they mentioned that TT guidelines are part of the overall IP management policy. So none of the TTOs have a dedicated tech transfer policy. So it's a tech transfer office, but no policy, only a subset of guidelines under a larger policy. So that also shows that there is a lot more scope for growth in terms of creative deals, offerings, and also in terms of horizontal spread of the activities that TTOs can perform within the innovation ecosystem. After these findings, we did another round of consultations. These consultations then helped us identify these very specific topics that people would want more awareness and training on. In addition to these topics, there was a general perception that we need more awareness, which is fine. And I think this online workshop has been designed in a way that it can be taken as a larger scale awareness tool as well. And then since there's a lot of range in TTO experience within the country, we have these very emerging TTOs. On the other hand, we have TTOs who are planning to open up offices in other countries as well. So there's a lot of potential for peer-to-peer knowledge exchange and a multi-tiered mentoring system where more developed TTOs can mentor the emerging ones. But then there's no platform to enable that. This website, this TT Tech Transfer Online is an attempt towards that. And I'm sure as the ecosystem grows, as the awareness grows, all of you would come together to make best use of this ability, this possibility, and ultimately benchmarking of practices so that the overall skill level in the ecosystem can improve. Right now, we have some who are very well developed, they have high skill level, but then the overall, when you average it out, it's not a very good score. So, but when peer-to-peer exchange happens, when these kind of open platforms become active, the overall baseline shifts, and that will be a great position to be in. So this is with my presentation. I'll be happy to take up some questions at the later point whenever it's allowed. Thank you so much. And I welcome all of you to the course, and thank you for taking out the time. And thank you to the Venture Center team. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Nitesh. That was a lot of effort that UNIDO team had put together with their implementation partners to carry out the study, and the learnings and the motivations what Nitesh discussed, they have formed the basis and foundation for the capacity building program which Venture Center is now implementing. Thanks for that informative session, Nitesh. Now we move on to our next session, where I would now request Dr. Premnath to take over from here. Dr. Premnath, please.
Thank you, Pragna. It's my pleasure to welcome Shri Praveen Roy for this event. Delighted and honored to have Shri Praveen Roy join us today for the launch of the online foundation course. Uh, as many of you are aware, Shri Praveen Roy is currently the head of the Technology Translation and Innovation Division of Department of Science and Technology, Government of India. In this role, he is responsible for shaping policy and providing strategic leadership to several national initiatives relating to nurturing technology transfer, science and technology based innovation, incubation, and entrepreneurship in the country. And as all of you are also aware, DST is a key department of the Ministry of Science and Technology that is charged with promoting and nurturing scientific research, technology development, and impact delivery across all disciplines and sectors. It is by far the department with the widest mandate for funding and promotion of science and technology in India. So we're we could not hope for a better person to join us today for this TTO training programs, especially. Just a little bit of background. Shri Praveen Roy is actually an electronics and telecommunications engineer. He spent many years in the industry.
Dr.
Yeah.
Premnath, I mean,
I'll,
you're already
let
short
me.
of time, so
Yeah, sure.
so we can shorten the
Yeah,
intro.
I will do that. Yeah,
skip that.
I'll do that. Yeah, I just will briefly mention that there are about 175 technology business incubators which have been created by DST, which have empowered 12,000 startups. And of course, he has had a key role in all of that. And now they're shaping up many new programs for DST as well. So thank you for joining us. I request you to formally inaugurate the online foundation course, Essentials of Technology Transfer. I'll just request you to declare it open and then we can proceed ahead. Can you hear me? You're on mute. Thank you.
I declare open this session and hope that the knowledge which is going to be shared through this online sessions will be very useful for our TTOs and technology managers. Good evening and namaste to all esteemed speakers, team of UNIDO, team of Venture Center, and all distinguished participants. Thank you for inviting me and making DST part of this important program on essentials of technology transfer being facilitated by UNIDO and Venture Center. We may all agree that today India is aspiring for a big, and we are daring to do so because the confidence that we developed through targeted, impactful steps we have taken in past, and you all have been part of it. We are aspiring for Viksit Bharat by 2047, and for this we need such kind of programs where the technology development, technology transfer, and technology can be developed in the universities which are there, supported by different government departments, can see the market, and startups can be spun out. uh, just now with the study that Nitesh has given, that gives a lot of insight in the technology development and transfer ecosystem in the country. And with the knowledge which we are expecting to get from international experts, global experience sharing, we hope that both can match, and a very useful structure program can be evolved for all the technology persons who are working in the technology transfer and technology development. DST has been the key department in the government and has pioneered a lot of innovative programs, and has been responsible for all extramural funding in research and development in the country. And DST has established a very large and very established infrastructure in R&D. But what we see that the applied research part and the technology translation part is still to be worked on, and requires a lot of efforts to strengthen that. The wing that I come from is technology translation and innovation wing of DST, and this has got two verticals. One was related to innovation and startup and entrepreneurship promotion, and second is technology development part. Under the innovation and startup and entrepreneurs promotion, we have established around 175 plus incubators across the country. And through this network of incubators, we have been able to support innovators, entrepreneurs to go for their innovative ventures and help them in supporting their establishment of startups. We support the POC, the prototyping part through our Fab Labs, and through our incubators, we give them hand-holding support in incubation. And through our seed fund, we fund them to establish their ventures. And through our accelerators, we help them to go to next level of business. So through this, we have been helping the innovators and the researchers in academic setups to have their innovative ideas, the research oriented towards market and go for their innovative ventures. Through the other part of our wing, which is on technology development and translation, we are helping researchers to do the technology development part and help them to translate it to see the market through technology transfer. And for this, we are having technology enabling centers, which are functioning similar to TTOs. And with this knowledge which is going to come through this platform, we are hopeful that the TECs and the TTOs will get all the insightful and global best practices to be followed. And we hope that their capabilities, their capacities will be improving a lot with this 5 days online session with online lectures from different experts uh, from the world. And uh, we are thankful to UNIDO to bring out this program, and we hope that DST can collaborate further for their TTOs and the TECs and the technology managers to strengthen their capabilities. And we congratulate UNIDO for having a deep study in the technology translation and innovation ecosystem in the country, and figuring out this kind of program and making a handbook out of it, which can be followed by different works in the workshops, and can be used to go for the capacity building of the technology managers. We also congratulate Venture Center for executing and running this program, because Venture Center was one of the incubators which was established almost 15 years back, and they have become a center of excellence to support innovators and technology innovators. And this they are the program management unit of Prayas, the EIR program, the Entrepreneur Residence program, and they have a Prayas center also with them. So this kind of role that they are playing in tech development and tech commercialization part is really very exciting to see, and it is next level of incubators to perform. And we are also hopeful to have in-person program which is planned in June, and we'll see like the incubator, the technology managers will get a lot of support and a lot of knowledge in the in-person program which is scheduled in June. So we'd like to wish UNIDO Venture Center and esteemed expert and all the distinguished participants from TTOs across the country all the very best for this important lecture series. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Roy. I think we're grateful for DST's support and good wishes. I think we'll continue with this and move on to the next phase. We look forward to panel discussion, but before that, I think Pragna has something to do.
Yeah. Thank you, Shri Praveen Roy, for that keynote address. Now, before we start with the panel discussion, there is an interesting poll that we want to bring to you. I would request all the participants to kindly participate in the poll, because that would also act as attendance for your, attending the session. So, requesting my colleagues to put up the slide for the QR code as well as the link to the poll in the chat box. We'll be giving you 5 minutes to complete this poll, and then we can
Maybe
see.
lesser.
Okay, 3 minutes. We are running
Yeah,
late. Yeah.
but please do participate. It's an easy thing to do. Can I have the things in the chat box, please? The link quickly.
Yeah, there is a link. Your time starts now. Maybe 3 minutes if everyone can just quickly put
These are the
the.
few simple questions which we want to also showcase here on the screen as you fill it up. So request each of you to contribute, please. And as you fill it up, you will see that the results we will also start showing immediately.
Probably in a minute, I'll just share my screen to see the trends.
I hope all of you are able to open it. It's in the chat box. You should be able to also quickly just fill it up. It's a very short form. Can we see the results?
Yeah,
Pragna,
they're just
has it come
showing
out?
up. I have not seen many responses though. It's
You can
started
go ahead,
coming.
please.
Yeah, I'll just share my screen. I hope everyone is able to access the form. In case you are not, kindly put in the chat box or raise your hand. My colleagues can help you there.
I think the access is already there. People are able to access it. So please just click on the link. You should be able to do it. The link which you are seeing on the chat box. Pragna, can you, is it?
Yeah, I have started getting responses now. I'll share my screen. Requesting my colleague to kindly unshare her screen so that I can. Yeah,
Go ahead.
thank you. Okay, here are the responses.
Can you just blow it up a little bit, please?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So the first question was relating to the kind of organizations you represent. About a quarter are academia, another quarter are about government R&D labs, and the remaining, including funding agencies, incubation centers. All of this, I hope our panel is noting, is a context from where everybody is coming. The second question was about professional community that you best identify with. There's about a quarter who are tech transfer professionals, or another quarter about who are intellectual property professionals, and some more who are researchers and inventors, and a mixed bunch of others, including incubation managers, grant program managers, investment managers, and entrepreneurs. And finally, the last question was relating to the experiences you have had in tech transfer and what you think are the top three things that require the most attention for improvement in India. The top one, which is showing up, is about technology and IP assessment here. And then the next category is awareness and familiarity with tech transfer among in the leadership. I think that's the next item over there. And tech marketing is also pretty high up, and institutional policies. I think that gives you a quick glimpse of the audience and what are the kind of issues that people are grappling with. So with that, Pragna, let's move on quickly. Please do fill it up. If you, this is also going to be used for the certificates. So every day we'll have some quizzes like this coming up. So please join in, and that will help us make sure that those who are participating get the certificates at the end of it as well. Okay, so let's continue.
Yeah, before
with
we
that,
move on
yeah,
to the panel discussion, I would quickly request everyone to kindly switch on their cameras for a few moments so that we can click one photograph. Requesting everyone to kindly switch on maximum in number. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I would request my colleague Mugdha to let us know once she is done, then we can move on to our next session. You're on mute, Mugdha. Requesting my, yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I think we must have done the pictures by now. Mugdha, thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks all.
Great to see all the dancing pictures out here. let's continue now. Now let's get to the heart of it. Shall
Yeah.
we start?
Yeah. Next
Pragna,
slide,
please.
please. Yeah.
Can you please introduce the panel and then we'll
Yeah.
start.
Next slide, please. Now we move on to our most awaited session for the day, panel discussion on technology transfer practice. Next slide, please. The discussion topics, you can see the list here. We would be taking up these questions with the panelists. So I would not read out this for you. These would be taken along the panel discussion. Next slide, please. I would introduce the panelists now, and I would request all of them to kindly switch on their videos. Next slide, please. Today we have with us Dr. Ashley Stevens, who was past President AUTM, Head of Technology Transfer for Boston University. He is President Focus IP Group LLC. Dr. Stevens is a biotech entrepreneur and technology commercialization expert. He co-founded GenMap Inc. and Kytogenetics Inc., bringing academic innovations to market. He later led technology transfer at Dana-Farber Cancer Center and Boston University, where he helped launch 55 startups. He currently teaches commercialization at Osaka University. Next panelist for the day is Dr. Richard Cahoon. He was former Board of Director AUTM, President Bioproperty Strategy Group Inc., and former Head of Tech Transfer, Cornell University. Dr. Cahoon is adjunct professor at Cornell University, specializes in technology transfer, IP management, and commercialization with over 30 years of experience. He has advised governments, universities, and global organizations on innovation ecosystems, IP strategy, venture creation, and technology driven economic development in over 25 countries. The third panelist with us today is Mr. John Fraser. He was also past president AUTM. He is president Burnside Development and Associates LLC, head of technology transfer for Florida State University and Simon Fraser University. John is a global expert in technology transfer and knowledge exchange with extensive experience in maximizing innovation impact. Having led 4 technology transfer offices across 2 countries, he understands the complexities of translating research into market ready products. As a former AUTM president, he has advised global technology transfer professionals on country specific challenges through Burnside development. He consults for WIPO, Chilean institutions, Serbia's Innovation Foundation, and India's DBT. Fourth panelist we have today, Dr. Raj Hirwani. He was former head CSIR URDIP and former head Business Development Division of CSIR NCL. Dr. Hirwani is an expert in tech transfer and IP management, has 45 years of experience in research and industry, a Fulbright scholar with a PhD from IIT Mumbai. He led CSIR's IP Directorate and URDIP, pioneering patent analytics in India. He played a key role in technology transfer, business development, and R&D commercialization at NCL, coordinating World Bank funded programs. He has advised global institutions, chaired Licensing Executive Society India, and contributed to government committees. Currently, he mentors startups and teaches entrepreneurship at IIT Bombay and Axis SIR. The next panelist, we have already listened to him, Nitesh Kaushik. The panel discussion would be moderated by Dr. Premnath. Over to you, Dr. Premnath.
Yeah, thank you. I think you can probably unshare so that we can see everybody on the screen as well. Well, gentlemen, I have the privilege of posing you questions. Some of them may appear hard, but I'm sure we'll have at the end of it interesting discussion. Let me begin by asking Richard the very simple question of what is technology transfer and what do you consider as the scope of what is included in technology transfer? Sorry, Richard, you're on mute.
Thank you. Thank you, Premnath. And happy to lead off. That's a good basic question. And I'll tell you, my view is that at universities in particular, so I'm speaking about universities and my experience at Cornell, my view is that tech transfer is a large term that includes a lot of different activities. It includes outreach, education, research, even libraries or tech transfer in a very large sense. And I think it's a bit arrogant for us to all talk about tech transfer as if we're the only ones that do it. We do something very unique and special, which is IP-based tech transfer. So in my view, what we're talking about today is the intellectual property based mechanism in which technology invention, to be specific, invention created by not-for-profit entities, personnel, research personnel, create inventions protected by intellectual property. And then the rights to that IP are transferred in a legal mechanism called a license agreement, in which the two parties or more are engaged in various mechanisms to transfer the right to commercialize. So I always say IP tech transfer to distinguish it from all of those other forms of technology transfer that universities engage in.
Ashley, do you want to also add to that in terms of do things like startups or research projects, sponsored research projects, all that, does that fall into the scope of tech transfer as well? And how much of IP management falls into? Let me put it this way: IP protection. How much of that falls into the tech transfer field? And are there different flavors of tech transfer across different institutions? And do you want to comment on that as well?
So, as the term implies, technology transfer means taking technology, some sort of innovation, and transferring it from the people that create it to the people that are going to use it. And as Dick said, there are a number of mechanisms. I mean, one of the oldest mechanisms has been through the graduate students who actually do the work. And they go and join industry, and they take that knowledge of their research projects with them, and perhaps they identify places where it can help their new employer. And I know at Boston University, we've seen that mechanism has been a very efficient way to help us create partnerships with companies. Obviously, industrially sponsored research. If a company comes to a university and says, we want to pay you to do research, that inevitably implies that the university has capabilities and an invention that the industrial partner doesn't, and they want to have access to. You need to have some vehicle to encapsulate this knowledge. Probably the most important form of intellectual property is know-how in the heads of the scientists and the heads of the researchers. And probably the most important form of intellectual property protection in industry is trade secrets. Those are difficult mechanisms to use, and we, I think, encapsulate inventions from universities frequently in patents, often in copyrights, sometimes even in trademarks. And these can be vehicles that we can use to transfer the rights to the technology from the originating institution to the organization that's going to develop it.
If you were to list the top 3 metrics for the success of TTOs, what would they be? Or to you, Ashley?
Wow, that's a good question. A critical invention, a critical measure, I think, is the number of invention disclosures you get as an institution. Because when a scientist comes to the office that's been established to have responsibility for this, they bring their idea and they say, hey, here's an idea I've got, and I want your help in developing it. And I think having a central office which has established the relationship with the researchers, that they come to it and say, hey, I've got this invention, can you help me think through how it should be developed? That's, I think, one of the most important metrics. The next important metric, I think, is how many of those inventions you take forward and develop. There needs to be an element of selectivity in the evaluation and assessment of technologies. We've worked with universities, and we say to them, so how many invention disclosures do you get? And they said, well, what do you mean? We filed 27 patents last year. Well, how many times did people come to you and say, I got this idea, can you help me? Or 27 times, and we filed a patent on each one. You need to be selective. So I think selectivity is a very important measure. But then finally, how many deals did you do? That's the ultimate criterion. We want to see it developed. We need to see it move from the originating institution into the hands of the utilizing institution. And so you need these deals to be done.
When you describe tech transfer, both of you sort of talked about how it's going from, say, academia to the people who could use it, right? People who create knowledge or know-how, and then people who could put it to use. So there must surely be metrics which have to do with the impact that is going to be created, right? In the underground, amongst people, in society and in the economy. Are those important metrics, and are there some which tech transfer offices measure and monitor?
The impact is very important, and it's a complex subject. Tech transfer office's job is to transfer technology, and it is only a limited part of their job to measure the economic impact of that technology, and it's a very tough thing to do. We have metrics like the number of startups we do, and you can look at those startups, you can see how much money they raise to develop those technologies. That's a measure of impact. You can look at the number of employees that these startups have, and that's obviously a very important metric. You can look at the number of products that have been launched into the marketplace. That's an important measure. And then the income you generate is an important metric. It shouldn't guide you, it shouldn't be the driving force, but you're not going to be paid large sums of money for technologies that are not important. A technology can have an impact without generating a lot of income, but it can't generate a lot of income without having a big impact, being an important technology. So those are some of the metrics that we can easily capture. Now, depending on the deal structure you do, if you have done a deal where you're going to get royalties based on the company's sales of product, then they will report their sales to you each quarter when they send you their check. So you do have some measure of the sales of the products resulting from the technology. But if you, on the other hand, you've done a fully paid up deal where you've, let's say, transfer the technology to a startup in return for shares in the startup, or you've been fully paid up front, then you're not going to have any knowledge of how much the sales are of the products that resulted from that technology.
Yep. Richard, the next question to you is, do the functions and the activities of a TTO change depending on the kind of organization that they are facilitating? For example, university versus a government R&D lab, say a university like Cornell versus, say, an NIH lab, or science and technology versus a medicine institute or other disciplines. How does it change?
Well, I think there's a core similarity. Inventions are inventions, and IP is IP, regardless of the type of institution that creates the invention. The big distinction, I believe, is between, say, a university and a government agency is the academic environment, academic freedom, academic publication, that whole arena of what is involved in the academic enterprise, somewhat reflected in government research agencies, but not the same way. And with universities, you have this academic freedom which supersedes even the IP factors and domain. And also related to that is education. Universities are educational institutions first and foremost. Government research agencies, hardly. They may have a postdoc or two. There may be some relationship with the university PhD program, but generally speaking, the government research agency is not involved in education. We in the university tech transfer world, we are always dealing with education issues surrounding inventors who are graduate students, for example. And we have to handle the tech transfer function with a great deal of respect for the educational mission. So, for example, one of the things that at Cornell we would say to our inventors, if you're a graduate student and your invention is described in your thesis, you have a primary right to publish your thesis or dissertation, and to do so at your discretion, you and your committee. It's not up to us. We don't tell you when you can or can't publish your thesis. So that takes precedence. Now, we also tell them that, oh, by the way, we should take a look at it and file, at least evaluate the invention to decide whether we should file before you publish. But at a government research agency, I don't think any of those kinds of decisions would be made. It would be purely based upon the IP merits, and this overarching academic issue doesn't really apply.
Yeah. So clearly, the mandates are different, the mission is different, but also perhaps the data, the kind of know-how that's available could also differ, right? For example, in
Sure.
clinical settings, you may have clinical data which might result in value creation, which might be available as well. I think I'll move on to John. And I'll request him to speak to us about a little bit of the tech transfer professional. Tell us about a little bit about what you think are the kind of skill sets that a typical tech transfer professional needs to have. What are the educational backgrounds? What are the experiences that are useful for tech transfer professionals in their career?
Thank you, Premnath. I think some of the skill sets are the following. The ability to communicate clearly is a real skill set that's needed. Not only the merits of the technology, but the benefits to the developer and the market. So communication is a real skill. The ability to build relationships, showing empathy and understanding what the other side is interested in is another skill set. And then finally, there's the mechanics of understanding the licensing, the protection of intellectual property, the administration of deals over the long term, because these deals may last 10, 15 years, depending on how long the items in the marketplace. I'll tell you something else that kind of struck me. I personally was interviewing for a job, and the individual asked about relevant experience, so technology, business experience, sales experience, et cetera, et cetera. Then she said, she hired me, and she said 6 months into my job, do you know why I hired you? No, I hired you because when you were at university, you ran a beauty contest in the Faculty of Science. And I said, I beg your pardon? She said, John, you have to understand, I saw an individual who had dealt with a lot of flighty individuals doing a tremendously busy life. you were able to corral them and focus and move them to a point where things were accomplished. And that I saw running the beauty contest, surprisingly, was a skill set that I thought would be quite useful in the job, which was at the Canadian counterpart to the National Science Foundation in the United States. That startled me, but when she explained it, I thought, oh, I see what she's talking about. The other small thing that I look for is people who have had some experience in business, either sales or inventory, what have you, so that they realized it is important to accomplish something by the end of the day, by the end of the month, by the end of the quarter, to move forward, so that there were results that were very tangible. Thank you.
Yeah, how important is, say, depth in the scientific disciplines, or depth in, say, intellectual property law? Is that something which is essential, or it's desirable?
All right, I'll respond to that. Technical background. Fundamentally, the researcher is the technical expert. The tech transfer staff needs to be able to, like a good lawyer, understand the key elements of what's important, but not go in depth and really have a deep technical understanding, in my personal view. What was the other point?
The other part was how much depth in the intellectual property law is needed, really, to be a good tech transfer professional.
In the United States, Canada, the United Kingdom, certain other countries, we're fortunate in that we are able to contract out that activity to real experts in patent firms. So it's very rare to hire such expertise inside the tech transfer office in those countries, because our resources are limited, and we tend to focus those resources on the marketing and the deal making, and then the administration of the deals, rather than the in-depth expertise, which, as I say, we contract outside to obtain.
Richard, I thought I'll
something on this.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah,
about the beauty contest or something more?
No, I'll take up the beauty contest with John offline. No, when you start a tech transfer office, you're going to have, your director, maybe one professional, if you're lucky. And one of the most important criteria, I think, is you have to be able to engage with faculty doing all sorts of different research. As John said, they're going to be the technical expert. They are going to be an inch wide, but a mile deep. And I think the tech transfer professional has to be the opposite. They have to be a mile wide. They have to be able to engage with people in so many different disciplines. And so they can only be an inch deep. They have to be able to help the professor, the researcher, think through the commercial implications and ramifications of their work. As the office grows, you will start to diversify and add additional skills. So I've always been life sciences. When I got to BU, I was the only person there. As I was allowed to grow, the first person I hired was somebody who took the broad area of physical sciences, so I could focus on life sciences.
Yeah, Richard, please go ahead.
I was just going to add to your question about, well, both the technical depth necessary and the IP knowledge necessary. And I'll use the analogy of your vehicle, your car. We all generally know, we learn how a car runs. My wife knows how a car runs. But I go a little deeper. I understand the subsystems of the vehicle, the fuel injection, the battery, the coolant, etc. Now, I don't go in such detail that I fix my own car. I don't have time anymore, so I go to a mechanic. I want to be able to talk to the mechanic, and I want to be able to talk to him intelligently and keep control and be involved in the situation. So that's the way I handle the technical side and the IP side, which is I'm generally knowledgeable. I want to know most about it, but I don't know every single detail, every single screw and nut. That's for the inventor on the technical side, and it's for my IP lawyer on the IP side.
Thank you. This is a little tricky question, but I just wanted to ask you on how is a technology transfer professional in, say, a university or academic environment perceived? Do they represent the university management? Do they represent or are friends of the inventors? Or how are they perceived by industry? Maybe Richard, you can take it.
Yeah, well, that is a really good question, and it's rich with a lot of different aspects to it. I think it's what what a tech transfer professional, the way they behave, the way they operate, that's ultimately going to be how they're perceived. Number one, I wanted to make sure I was always the friend of inventors. I think that at the end of the day is probably going to be the best relationship that you could have for the long run of flow of inventions and having good teamwork with inventors. So I always want to be perceived as a friend to the inventor. And but I also have to walk the line of saying, we represent the institution. We all do. So I have to, counsel inventors to say, look, we have to look out for the best interests of not just yourself, but of the institution. And a few other things too. We have to establish really high levels of ethics and behavior. And so make sure that everybody understands that, this is all done transparently and above board. But I would say it's that being friend to the inventor. The other thing you'll hear me say, however, and this colors everything I do in tech transfer, and that is, who is my primary client? And there's a lot of answers here. Is it the university? Is it the public? Is it an inventor? And all those are good answers, but I consider my primary client the technology. So I'm always looking out for the best interests of the technology.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, that is a very interesting answer because that's the issue that many tech transfer professionals grapple with, because this whole field is about creating impact and working with multiple stakeholders, right? So let me just move ahead a little bit. Ashley, you have studied a lot about the tech transfer professional. Can you tell us a little bit about how the tech transfer profession originated? How did organized tech transfer originate? Maybe in a few brief comments. And also, I remember you have you edited a very interesting collection of tech transfer or organized tech transfer from various countries around the world. And are there any interesting things in that which you want to point us to?
So the tech transfer profession has grown over I think it really started in the early 1900s. One of the earliest academic inventions I've ever been able to discover that had commercial value was a Norwegian scientist who was trying to create artificial lightning, and he finished up creating a nitrogen fixation process that was the foundation of Norske Hydro, the major Norwegian company to this day. Universities back then taught. Research came much more recently. And one of the important inventions came out of the University of California, where there were a lot of zinc smelters around San Francisco Bay, and the atmosphere was horribly polluted. And a scientist at the University of California invented the electrostatic precipitator, which cleaned up San Francisco Bay. And he knew this had commercial potential, and he had to apply for patents on it. And then the question was how to manage those patents. And he offered the patents to the university, and they said, no, we don't want that. That's commercial. We're a university. No. And after a lot of research, he offered them to the Smithsonian Foundation. And they said, no, that's not what we do. but we will help you set up a company to manage these patents. And that was called Research Corporation. And that managed those patents. The scientists who invented vitamin B saw that this company could manage these patents, and they gave them their patents, and they managed those. And then they said, well, you know, we realized we're pretty good at managing intellectual property. And so instead of waiting for people to give it to them, they started saying to universities, we'll help you manage your patents. That was going on in the 1930s. Coming out of, obviously, the Second World War involved a lot of scientific creation, you know, antibiotics, radar, nuclear weapons, etc. And a lot of these inventions were made at universities. And coming out of the Second World War, government realized it could fund scientific development that got commercialized. And that went on. Then the US government made an unfortunate decision. And it said, well, if we're paying for this research, we're going to own the results and we'll be responsible for commercialization. And they were absolutely terrible at it. And a lot of inventions got just sat on the government shelves and nothing happened. And about 1978, some universities in the US started getting unhappy. They realized they had important inventions that they couldn't do anything with. And this resulted in a law called the Bayh-Dole Act of 1980, which said to universities, you know those inventions you made with government funding? Well, if you want them to commercialize them, you can, just tell us. And this was really the pivotal event that started the technology transfer profession. And I'll say as a side note, there's a lot of discussions going on in the US right now about the rightful role of universities and government. The Trump administration is taking a very hard line with universities. In an article in the paper on Sunday about the relationship between universities and government, they identified this act as one of the pivotal forces that changed the relationship between universities and government. So that started the spread of tech transfer in the US. This research corporation became less and less important as universities set up their own tech transfer offices. I did lead a study, a group of about 35 international experts in different countries. You were one of them, Premnath. And we looked at institutions that did tech transfer for countries or regions. And we found that in many, many ecosystems, a central national organization started this process. In the UK, after the Second World War, there was an organization called the National Research Development Corporation, which was set up to make sure that we wouldn't do something stupid like give away penicillin, and in fact be finished up forcing to be paying royalties to the American scientists who developed the manufacturing process. And India set up its own company with the same name, the National Research Development Corporation, in 1953, which is still active in India. I think in some smaller ecosystems, regional operations will remain the norm. In general, we've seen that national organizations are too unwieldy. Either bigger organizations develop their own offices, and the role of national and regional organizations tends to diminish.
I think just before I go to the next question, I'll just alert the participants that there are quite a few questions which are coming up, which are relating to details of how tech transfer is done, licensing is done. Well, we'll be covering all of that. Tomorrow, there is a session by Ashley, which will go into licensing, but it'll be still introductory. There's a next session by Richard, which will talk about how tech transfer offices are structured and run and so on and so forth. And then there is a session by John, which will talk about several important themes which are fundamental, including communicating, about technologies, impact, and so on and so forth. The IP management side of it, the developing professionals, and finally, on the fifth day, we're just going to get an introduction into tech marketing and as well as policies by Anu Narasimhan, me, and Arun Chinchuri. Right. So that's what the plan is for these five. But I should tell you that the meat of how to do some of these things will come up in the 5-day workshop that we have planned. And we'll also be putting out a lot of content in between online as well. So that's just a quick comment for some of those who are looking at very focused questions on how to do valuation, how to do deals, and so on. I think I'll go to my dear friend Raj Hirwani, who has probably one of the longest associations with the tech transfer profession in India. Do you want to take this opportunity to talk about a little bit on how India, how the profession originated, how it has progressed briefly, and perhaps a few milestones and landmarks which you want to highlight?
See, we started industrial research at the end of the Second World War. And we followed the British model of individual research institutions. In 1948, NRDC of UK was formed. And we just recreated that organization to begin with. And it was basically corporation under DSIR, whose mandate was to commercialize publicly funded research in CSR laboratories. It worked well for initial about 20 years because labs did not have any wherewithal to handle technology transfer. But with the experience gained, it was later on realized that it's not a very efficient model. You have some centralized organization in Delhi which handles, because tech transfer is very effectively done when you are in close collaboration with the scientists, with the inventors. You can't operate very remotely. So that is where individual laboratories started directly marketing, effort, tech transfer. Parallelly, Indian Institute of Technologies, they started changing because they moved from purely kind of an office which used to do contract and agreement management to handling research parks, incubators, and all that. Whenever we talk about tech transfer in India, we are basically talking about CSR institutes and IITs. But I'd like to just go back into the history. Agriculture has been one of the success stories initially. A lot of extension work is required, which bridges that gap between research and the practice. ICR, agriculture universities, state agriculture departments did tremendous job to bring us food self-sufficiency. We had National Agriculture Extension Project, Krishi Vigyan Kendra, which you can translate in English, Agriculture Science Centers, National Mission on Agriculture Extension, Technology, finally leading to ICR having their own commercial arm, Agro Innovate. We have seen the success in space. ISRO had one of the earliest technology transfer group, which did transfer a number of technologies to industry. And today, you have New Space India Limited, then Space, and this also led to the creation of Antrex Corporation. Under the Ministry of Medium and Small Industries, we have Indo-German tool centers. Although these are called tool centers, but they develop a lot of technologies, work with SMEs. And what is surprising is they are financially self-sufficient. They do not get any revenue budget from government. They pay for their salaries and all their operating expenses. BRC, Baba Atomic Research Center at Atomic Energy, that had a technology transfer consulting group from the beginning. Today, for last 20 years, they are running a program called Kurti. Today, you go to the website of the BRC and you find technology is available for incubation. Textile Industry Research Associations, Sasmira, Atira, Mitra had an excellent job in working with textile industry, Indian Jew Technological Research Institute. Defense Research, DRDO are the last one to come because they had a captive customers of ordnance factory. They thought whatever they developed went to the ordnance factories. But today, they have Directorate of Industry Interface and Technology Management. DRDO is the first organization to come up with TTO policy, technology transfer policy. So you see a lot of those changes. ICMR is Indian Council of Medical Research, is setting an IP protection and commercialization unit. Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology has a new project for 45 crores called IP Catalyst. So what I'm saying is, these are the significant milestones. Things are changing, and it's actually exciting time for people who are in this field. In CSR, since 80s, as I said, we have led the initiative, we have set up the policies, procedures, guidelines, templates, which are being copied by other research councils, scientific agencies. And all of us who have been involved that have played that part. The current gap is in with the new institutions and private universities, which have come off the edge and are in competition. In order to survive, they are moving towards research, IP generation, but have no wherewithal to handle industry collaboration and technology transfer. And I think efforts like these, current programs, are going to fill that and offer them an opportunity.
Yeah. Thanks for that. I think that's a good review of what has happened in India. I will sort of shift gears a little bit. I know we are behind today, so I'll cut a couple of things which I had in mind and focus on a few other topics. One of the things which I would like to hear from you is also about how successful have TTOs been. Ashley briefly mentioned about the Bayh-Dole Act, and there's a turning point in 1980s. And also Autumn is the Association for University Technology Managers in the US, which took on a new life of its own. How successful have they been? What are the key things that your annual survey tells has been, important success stories? And what is overall the pitch that the tech transfer professionals make in the US about what the profession contributes to the economy and the society? Richard, would you like to take it?
So one thing I would say as a quick response, Premnath, is that and I think others will share this view, and that is that one of the key factors, there's really no more important factor in the development of the profession, the professionalism of tech transfer at public sector research institutions, has been the development of Autumn. The individuals getting together and working together as a professional association, as a community, to learn where we didn't know what to do, to teach each other, and to just gradually increase the professionalism is just an incredible factor. And I think now I think we all believe that it's important that every country have an institution like that, have a creation of a community like that. Autumn has produced that kind of professionalism, which has elevated salary levels, compensation for tech transfer. It has helped root out some of the problem areas where ineffective tech transfer practices have been winnowed out, and there's just a constant teaching of each other that has been, I think, instrumental in all this. And how is tech transfer perceived now? Well, I will say this. when I started at Cornell back in 1990, tech transfer was considered outside the university. The president didn't want to be seen with us. They put us next to the real estate management office because they thought, oh, they're managing property, right? And so that's how removed we were from the center of the university. And gradually over time, what has evolved is that tech transfer is now woven into the mission of the university. It's inextricably linked and woven into. It's not as important as, I mean, it's below education and research and our public outreach and so on, but it is definitely now woven into the mission.
Let me speak to this if I can, please, Premnath.
Sure.
So I got into tech transfer a year after Dick, 1991. And, you know, I did it because I needed a job. It looked like it was a logical evolution of what I had been doing previously. It looked like an interesting job. And I'm working away at it. And about a year and a half later, this cover story of Business Week comes out. I know how well it shows.
Sorry, you will
screen.
need to remove your blurring though, in order to see it, or keep it close to your face.
Okay. So it was a story in Business Week called Hotspots. And you read it, and it was all about these new high-tech clusters growing up in the US. And as you read it, a research university was central to everyone. And this, I think, was the first account of what has become a new model of economic development called the triple helix. And this is the interaction of government to provide funding, universities to do research, and companies to take up the results of that research and commercialize it. And I think this was the first description of this model. And I think it, you know, has helped shape America's emergence from its post-industrial, Rust Belt phase. I look at where I sit here in Massachusetts. I moved to Massachusetts in 1982. There was one substantial drug company in Massachusetts then. It was the US headquarters of Astra before the AstraZeneca merger. It was out in the central part of the state. The site doesn't even exist now. It's been demolished, replaced by an Amazon robotics facility. AstraZeneca first built a research facility around 128, close to Boston, and now it's going to move into downtown Boston for its next research facility. Over those 40 years, Massachusetts has grown to be the center of the pharmaceutical innovation worldwide. And it has been totally driven by the technologies emerging to a certain extent from the universities, but I think particularly to the academic medical centers, the teaching hospitals affiliated with the medical schools. And we have 4 medical schools in Massachusetts: Harvard, Tufts, Boston University, University of Massachusetts. You're not going to find a concentration of academic medical expertise like that anywhere in the world. And it's driven Massachusetts to the leadership role in pharmaceutical innovation globally.
John, do you want to talk a little bit about some of the impact stories that Autumn has been putting out? You've been a president of Autumn as well, in the Better World site blogs that are quite interesting reads. Do you want to talk about that? Because one other thing that you mentioned, which I want to just reiterate here, was Lita Nelson talking about impact and not income being the goal of tech transfer offices. Do you want to talk through that, please?
Sure. I'll start off by mentioning the perception of the tech transfer offices in the universities. As the guys have said, it's realized currently that engagement with technology transfer can benefit people, particularly accelerate the research careers of the academics. It can further enhance the reputation of the institution which contains the tech transfer office. It can lead to improvements of local economic development through startup companies. And again, the university can turn to the government and say, we are fulfilling our mandate of helping do more than simply creating well-educated new citizens. We can contribute to the economic development. So I led a group that led to the creation of the Better World Report at Autumn. It's a repository of stories, roughly 600 of them, of inventions on academic campuses that led to products in the marketplace. Thursday, we'll talk about a similar database in India, put together by Sadhguru and STEM Global, of dozens and dozens of stories leading products into the marketplace. All right, examples. Ones I'm familiar with. The Taxol molecule. In the 1990s, treatment for breast and ovarian cancers had a success rate of about 6% of the patients. The introduction of a molecule, Taxol, where the method to manufacture it was invented and licensed to Bristol Myers Squibb from a Florida State University chemist. The response rate went from 6% to 30%. It was considered the golden bullet back then. That's done. On a flip side, again at Florida State, there's a story about autistic behavior. One of the very prominent researchers, Amy Weatherby, decided that if you looked into families with autistic children and looked at the children, particularly the babies, you could predict the children who would become autistic over a period of time, and by intervening early, you could lower the long-term impact of the autistic behavior of the child. This is a social innovation as opposed to a STEM innovation. So Autumn and the Indian repository tell stories not only from North America, Canada, and the United States, but from Chile and other countries around the world, and have gathered these stories together to be used by practitioners to explain virtually the benefits to the individuals, the institution, and the long-term economy.
Let me shift gears a little bit. We are at 7:30, so I need to jump some of the questions which I had planned originally. Can I ask a quick, a set of few points about what were the key factors that have determined the success of TTOs? Maybe I'll request Richard to talk about the US experience, and then I'll ask Raj Hirwani and Nitesh to talk about their experiences from the Indian context, especially now that Nitesh has done the survey. Maybe he can add a few points. Richard?
Sure. I'll say just quickly the key factors I think that led to success, and I'll just take Cornell. First of all, just good practice of good evaluation, good proactive business development to do deals, finding potential licensees and negotiating good deals, not perfect deals, good deals, getting a lot of deals done, developing good rapport with inventors and would-be inventors. So, just the core practice. We focused on getting good at that. So that's number one. Number two, outreach to departments and different groups on campus. We started going out and giving presentations, increasing awareness among the would-be inventors and existing inventors. Cultivating, and this is where John played, John was really a thought leader in this, and that is making sure you reach out effectively to your senior management, make sure they understand, why are we doing this? Why is this good for the institution? So making sure we're cultivating that awareness. And then the other thing that I'll say, and also a tip of the hat to John for his role in this Better World Report. because I think it started to just fundamentally shift the way people thought about tech transfer as, oh yeah, it's about patents and making money, to, wait a minute, this has impact for society. And I think that just was such a big shift, and it just started to change the impression of tech transfer campus-wide.
Yeah. Ashley, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah. Nike, the shoe company, has a great logo. Just do it. And I think that's an important thing. When Unido was talking about their survey, they talked about, foot dragging, negotiations going on 2 to 3 years. And it's very often people are loath to give up their crown jewels. You've just got to get the deal done. You'll make mistakes, learn from your mistakes. Each negotiation, you start from a clean sheet of paper. The counterparty doesn't know the mistakes you've made in the past. Learn from your mistakes. Don't make them again. One of the joys of tech transfer I've always found is I love negotiating. And in tech transfer, you negotiate for a living. You keep getting these technologies coming along, new counterparties, and you get better at negotiating. It's an important skill set that, business school has some courses in negotiation, but just doing it and practicing and learning is the best way, I think.
Sure. Rajivani, I wanted to ask you the same question. In your experience, are there two, three things that you want to point out have led to success in the tech transfer?
See, one is the credibility
activities?
of your TTO organization within the institute itself. You need to market yourself within the institution before you market institution to outside world. So your scientists or faculty should respect you for what you bring to the table. You should be able to add value to what they have created. So you should have an ability to techno-commercially evaluate what they have done, give them an advice, how it can be a viable option, what it requires to take it to the marketplace, and also able to communicate to the different stakeholders, including industry. So knowledge of industry, finding right partners, marketing to them are some critical success factors.
Sometimes we seem to get caught up in the process rather than focusing on, as Richard mentioned, on technology as your main customer, right? That is a stakeholder that really matters. I mean, do you think this is something which we should take close to heart and build on? Because sometimes I feel the discord or the differences are because people don't put the technology ahead, but they're just pulling in different directions, in terms of institutional priorities or, perceptions and so on and so forth.
See, the problem is in a publicly funded system, there are issues of, what you can say, giving equal opportunity to all the stakeholders, all the industry partners, getting right price, not causing a loss to the institutions, those financial audits, etc. That forces people to focus on the processes rather than the technology. See, technology has a short shelf life. So it is a commodity which is perishable. So you need to capture that window and quickly take it out. I always say it is not important what money you get it. Because Richard Mansfield, a famous economist in UK, said, the R&D benefits you see in the society when production happens, employment gets generated, taxes are collected, and customer benefit from the product. So I always said that money is not important to what you get it. It's good to get it. We should get a fair money, but you should not stop your deals on such matters. Taking product to the market should be the first priority.
Thank you. Nitish, I think your surveys have taught you a lot about at least you have some data points available on, people who have done things better, some who may not have. What did you think were being done well in the places which are doing better, and things which were not being done well, occasionally? What were the kind of things that hampered tech transfer success?
Yeah, thank you. So we sort of listed some good practices which the respondents have themselves identified as contributors to their success. First is the quality of research, what they're trying to present. So most of these good tech transfer offices are attached to excellent research organizations. So because that's what they're trying to bring out. Next is they're able to do repeat deals with same customers. They have built very strong connections. They're able to go back to the people. There's a trust has been built, a track record is there, so they can go and pitch again and again. So that contributes a lot. It's a lot simpler to deal with the known devil than the unknown devil, let's say that, if the negotiations are too tough. And also they don't spend too much time sitting on a particular package or harping on a particular mind model or a mind map they have in terms of commercialization. They would rather get the deal done. They'll have different channels, keep on discussing, and ultimately the idea is to get it out in the market, see it on the pathway of commercialization. And that is also where we got alarmed when we got a lot of responses where people were saying licensing means commercialization. It's the start of the journey towards commercialization. Somebody would adapt, somebody would integrate, there would be a lot of steps. Then they've also managed to find their feet within the organization. What I mean by this is, for emerging tech transfer offices, they have a lot of pressures, either in terms to generate revenues, or they still do not have enough trust within the community, with the industry, with the researchers themselves, and there's a tendency to sometimes override. But the TTOs which are more established, which have seen more success, they've managed to find their feet. They're very comfortable in their skin, and they are also very comfortable to put their foot down in a way, this is what we think based on so and so analysis, and this is how we want to proceed with it. We welcome feedback, but I don't know, not too much intervention or interference, if I could say that. And finally is, they also have a very good startup ecosystem to go with what they are doing internally. So most of these good TTOs currently in the country, you will also see their research parks and their incubators are also very flourishing. Because if the licensing is not happening, they would try to spin it out. They'll try to work with a startup. They'll try to convince a faculty, because the idea is to get out there, leave the lab and go out and start facing the market as soon as possible. So these are some of the good practices that we have listed out during our survey. I think John Fraser wants to add something.
Yeah, John, did you want to add, please?
I want to say two things. Raj mentioned one of them. I was at Florida State University, a public institution, and I had an individual company approach me and say, look, you owe me your time. You owe me the rights to this technology because I pay federal taxes. Okay, you owe me. And I realized my response to that was, okay, what federal taxes did you pay as a company compared to the entire federal taxes paid across all companies in the United States? And I will give you 1/1,000,000th of 1 second of my time, because that is what I really owe you as a public organization. So the idea of you're a public and you need to give it to me free, we were able to put in a box and put away. The second issue, which I ran into, was a company that wanted to continue the conversation over almost a 6-month period without coming to closure on a deal. And I realized, I said to them in 1 month, all right, stop. What we have in terms of information is very valuable. You recognize that, and what you want is free consulting. We're not going to give you free consulting. You don't want to transfer and license the technology? Fine. But if you want to continue to talk to our faculty member, you're going to have to pay for their time. And so there are instances on the extreme where corporations pushed a little too hard. And rather than form a collaborative back and forth, wanted to push the system to their major advantage. And as a tech transfer office, I had to step in, put down my foot, and protect the faculty member, become an advocate for the faculty member and an institution. Those are the two things I wanted to say.
Sure. Thank you. Richard, please go ahead.
Yeah, just a couple of, or just one key statement following on what Nitish and Raj have said. And that is, when I would direct my professionals, my tech managers, the ones responsible for turnkey management of invention all the way through IP protection and negotiating a license, I would say this: I want more good deals. I want a lot of good deals, not few perfect ones. So that was the way I told them, go get a good deal done. And then move on to the next one, and then the next one, the next one, rather than trying to somehow hone this perfect deal on each one. Because if you do the latter, you're going to get stuck, and you're just not going to get the throughput and the positive outcomes. So lots of good deals.
Mhm. I think I'll just ask a couple of questions now to close the session, which is focused more on the future of the tech transfer profession and TTOs. I wanted to understand from some of you, how is the tech transfer profession and the nature of tech transfer offices changing? First, let's just talk about a little bit about the tech transfer office itself. Increasingly, is it true that many more cases of startup licensing is happening compared to licensing to large industry? Is this a regional trend? Is it a global trend? Is this something which tech transfer professionals need to think about? Also, I'm noticing that several of the top tech transfer offices are running their own investment funds, seed funds, and so on and so forth. Does that reflect a change in the direction of how tech transfer offices are changing? I think maybe Ashley, you can go first.
So let's start with the last one. Oxford University, which has been ranked the top university in the world for the last 10 years, has the world's biggest university-linked venture fund, $1 billion. And I think this is just a reflection of the growth of the profession, the perception by industry that things of massive value come out of publicly funded research that need to be nurtured and taken into the marketplace. So yeah, you're seeing the rise of these venture funds linked to universities. You asked about licenses to startups. People still running tech transfer offices in the US say that most of their exclusive licenses now are done with startups. And when they license to existing companies, it tends to be non-exclusive. But the core technologies that need a startup to develop them, they get the exclusive licenses from the universities. Overall, you can look at the metrics that come out of autumn to see a pretty steady rising profession, at least until the Trump administration started slashing. Research funding kept growing, invention disclosures kept growing, licenses kept growing, income kept growing, and so forth.
Mm-hmm. Are the proportion of startup licenses to the proportion of licenses to large industry changing in the US? Europe, I have seen in UK, for example, the numbers are pretty large for spin-outs.
Yeah, it's gone from about 10% of licenses being to startups to about 20% over the years. You can look at it through the autumn licensing survey. The percentage of deals done with large companies, and in the US ecosystem, a large company is one with 500 employees or more. That percentage has been going down.
Mm-hmm. And Nitish, you wanted to comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to the same discussion. So one is the number of startups, and it also the overall shift in policy stance. If we look at UK, we have this new university spin-out investment terms. which is a very simplified way of spinning out now. Similarly, we have examples in Europe where we have Netherlands, Germany, Sweden, Finland, France. All of them, as part of their policy initiatives, they have simplified the process of spinning out. They simplified the and created funding and capacity infrastructure for accelerating tech transfer, for accelerating startups which are based on research. So there is definitely a policy, if not shift, then there's definitely a preference, and these topics are figuring more frequently in these policy designs that are coming up.
John, over to you, please.
One of the reasons that the United Kingdom has a high rate of spinouts is because the United States is the only country in the world where you can have a vibrant tech transfer activity without a passport. The industrial base in America, it's the biggest economy in the world, so you can, without engaging in working with other countries, you can do a tremendous amount of licensing. As Ashley pointed out, spinouts started 14% or so. It's now up to 20%. One of the reasons that there are these funds growing up is the recognition that companies are becoming less and less, more and more risk averse. So the universities must use internal monies, state, provincial monies to add value, de-risk some of these opportunities so that the companies can come in and move them forward. So I think the other thing was a recognition years and years ago by Kathy Koo and Lita Nielsen, who said, look, university research is probably 5 years ahead of industry's ability to understand how to use it. So we need to add value. We need to understand what the potential application is to show the companies it's worthwhile, and eventually they'll come on board, license it, and move it forward.
Thank you. Richard, I think you had a
I just
comment.
add,
Yeah, please go ahead.
I was just going to add to, this general consensus that startups, yes, growing emphasis on it. And I was going to say that at Cornell, it has, we were doing it when I was director, and it has just continued to flower in the sense that now there are, in the Tech Transfer Office, there are programs, there are support services, there's a whole internal ecosystem for creation and support of startups. And there are people now within the office who are specializing in the startup creation process.
One of the observations which I just wanted to run by you is the fact that, in the US, you're seeing today a lot of these focused research organizations coming up where technology creation and translation is the focus, sometimes with or without academia in focus, right? And they have their own ideas and thoughts. In India, we have this benefit of having a lot of different research labs which work on different themes, which in a manner of speaking are meant to be those focused research organizations. They're not for profits, which have certain themes around which they work. Do you think the tech transfer process is going to work differently? For example, one of the focus research organizations is probably that which is supported by things like Flagship Pioneering out of the Boston area, and and various technologies coming out of it. Are such developments going to change the tech transfer profession?
Yeah, you asking me?
Yeah, Richard.
Well, I don't think, if I just think about universities, I don't think it's going to change universities much because, we have to deal with such a range of disciplines. We can't just focus on one area. Cornell, for example, such a broad institution. We've got inventions coming from all over the place. So I don't know that it's going to change the way we operate. I think focused research organizations have the benefit of being able to develop really strong relationships within their focused industrial segment. Like Nitesh said, that one of the reasons that some Indian tech transfer offices are so successful is because they've developed a track record within same industry, same companies. I think the focused technology development institutions can really accelerate that. But university is just going to be a little different because we've got such a range of disciplines.
I think we'll come to the final round, which I'll request each of you to comment briefly, which is, can you comment on what do you think are going to be the most important things shaping TTOs in the near future? And what if you had a wish list for improving tech transfer office successes, what would they be? Both, say, globally from some of our global experts and from the Indian experts as well. So maybe Ashley, do you want to go first?
Well, I think here in the US, we're facing an existential crisis of the Trump administration attacking universities broadly, attacking funding of research broadly, and that I think threatens to turn the clock back many years.
Richard?
Well, I'd like to think that we're going to weather this existential storm. And I was talking to a colleague the other day who is dealing with the $1 billion cut or the $1 billion stop work order from the Department of Defense at Cornell. And he's looking at it positively, saying that it's causing everyone to go out, reach out and explain why this is so essential that this funding continues. So we'll see what happens. But I guess what I would say is that if there was one thing that I think we'll see that would, I think, be a positive outcome is this, what I'll call the business development mindset. That TTOs, the more business development mindset that a tech transfer office can bring to the endeavor, the more creativity. And that's the other thing I want to mention too, is that what I've learned over time is that some people think that the creative process ends with the invention. And actually, the creative process is really furthered by a creative tech transfer professional and a creative technology transfer office. So the more we start seeing that, I think the more we're going to be just amazed at the results that we see.
Sure. Do you think AI is going to play a role in changing the tech transfer offices and profession? That is, by the way, a popular question out there. So you may want to comment on it, Richard.
So AI is a useful tool. It's just like I look at it. I mean, it's not quite as rudimentary as a spreadsheet. I remember with spreadsheets, wow, we can all quit our jobs because we have spreadsheets. No, it's just a tool. I think AI is a very important, useful tool, but I think more and more AI requires good judgment, that it be used by people with good judgment.
John, your comments, please.
Sure. I've learned the response time of the institutions that we work for is measured in decades, as opposed to companies which are much faster responding. The interesting thing about our institutions, however, is that while the main focus of the enormous ship is moving ahead unchanged, there's small sub-elements of very entrepreneurial thinkers in the humanities, in social sciences, in the STEM, that are reaching out to these new external vehicles and figuring out how to take advantage of them. Okay, so it's always amazed me of how responsive our institutions are, because there are small bits and pieces that can take advantage of the external changing world while the main ship continues to be the one place where knowledge is the realm, the coin of the realm.
Thank you. Rajirvani?
See, I clearly see companies have moved away from funding discovery research or just licensing patents or lab scale results. They prefer to buy proven technologies or a startup which own them. So startup companies founded on academic or government research will offer a route to research funding and technology commercialization. So future generation of TTOs will have to focus on venture creation, completing full chain of knowledge generation, application, and exploitation in close involvement with industry and the investors. So this puts up a little pressure on us to have right kind of a people which have education background, experience, and ability to network and manage this function.
Yeah, that's, I think, something that I I I tend to agree with you there, but then I might be biased. So Nitesh, you have the last word.
Yeah, so I had 3 points. So first is establishing standards of practice. See, ours is a very emerging ecosystem currently. We see a lot of, especially doing the survey also, once there's a degree of comfort, people start opening up. So people mention a lot of opportunistic behavior. For a while, it's okay, but if it goes beyond a certain point, then it may leave people with bad aftertaste, and that reliability or that track record may not even develop. So they may not trust you for what you're bringing on board. So establishing standards of practice, part of which is also about establishing a peer group, a peer organization where people can come in and share their experiences. Second would be the positioning of tech transfer as a process, as a practice within the overall innovation chain. Currently, we have 8 or 9 different modalities to drive innovation in the country. And for each of these modalities, the implicit understanding is they will do tech transfer. But offices with explicit mandate to do and drive tech transfer, there are very few. So that clarity and that positioning in the overall innovation ecosystem is also very much required, because otherwise a small tech transfer team will always struggle between getting the right kind of approvals, the right kind of visibility to make revenues or to do the deals and those kind of questions. And third would be recognizing tech transfer as a professional as a professional practice. Currently is more of a white collar job in an unorganized sector, if I have to put it loosely. If we can put some, let's say, concrete steps towards recognizing it as a professional practice, that will help a lot. That will help to retain a lot of people who have years of experience but have career anxiety, and because of that they're not able to bring 100% of their skill set to the job every day. These are my 3 points. Thank you.
So I think from going from being accidental tech transfer professionals to probably intentional ones, is it? Okay, good. I think on that note, we will close this session. I thank everybody for the patience, and sorry I had to cut down some of the questions I had in mind because we were short of time. We still ran till about 8. That said, each of the sessions that will follow will have ample time for questions, and we shall be happy to take them up towards the end of those sessions, which will come up next as well. So I think with that, I will stop here and hand it over to my colleagues who will take it ahead from here and close the session. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you all panelists, participants, and teammates who have stayed long till 8 p.m. I know, and it was very enriching session for all of us. Can you show this slide, please? Yeah. So starting tomorrow, we are going to have more focused lectures. Today was more about everything about TT. We wanted to hear from all the experts who are here with us. Tomorrow, we are going to have Dr. Ashley Stevens, who is going to talk about technology licensing. You can reserve your questions for tomorrow. Those of you who typed questions in the chat box related to technology licensing, we'll be happy to take those tomorrow. Hope to see you all there again tomorrow. Thanks a lot to all the panelists once again, UNIDO team, and other participants who participated in the poll and throughout the event today. Thank you so much. With this, we close
Thank
today's
you.
day.